Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins All World, coin collectors and enthusiasts. If you're passionate about finding rare treasures and uncovering hidden gems, you're going to love today's video. We're diving into a coin that many people overlook but has the potential to be worth a small fortune, the 1982 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, the 1982 Washington quarter may look like just another piece of pocket change, but for savvy collectors and numismatists, this quarter holds a secret. What's the secret? Well, there are rare versions of this coin that are worth far more than its face value, and today, we're going to uncover exactly why that is. Stick with me, and by the end, you'll see how a simple quarter could end up being worth a lot more than you ever imagined. The 1982 Washington quarter was minted during a time of transition in the U.S. economy. The United States was in the early 80s, moving into a new economic era with inflation being a major concern. This was also a period of significant change for the U.S. Mint, as they were exploring new ways to improve coin production and distribution. While most people think of the 1982 Washington quarter as just another modern coin, it actually has some key features that can make it incredibly valuable to the right collector. First, let's talk about the design. As you know, the Washington quarter features George Washington, the first president of the United States, on the obverse side of the coin. On the reverse, you'll see an eagle in flight, perched proudly with its wings outstretched. The design of the quarter hasn't changed much over the years, but there are certain years and certain versions of the coin that are more valuable than others. So, what makes the 1982 Washington quarter different from other quarters? The answer lies in the minting errors that took place that year. While most of the 1982 Washington quarters are relatively standard and worth their face value, some of these coins have rare and unique characteristics that set them apart. And those differences can mean big money for the lucky few who find them. One of the most sought-after versions of the 1982 Washington quarter is one with a minting error, such as a double die or an off-center strike. These errors are a result of problems during the coin's production, and they can turn an ordinary quarter into a collector's dream. A double die error occurs when the coin is struck twice by the dies, resulting in a doubled image on certain parts of the coin. On the 1982 Washington quarter, you'll want to check closely for any doubling in the date or in the word Liberty. A double die error can make your coin much more valuable because it's not something you see every day. Coins like this are highly collectible, and if you're fortunate enough to come across one, it could dramatically increase the worth of your quarter. Another minting error to look for is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted. If you find a 1982 Washington quarter that is noticeably off-center, don't overlook it. These types of coins are rare and highly coveted by collectors, especially when the misalignment is extreme, but that's not all. There's another aspect of the 1982 Washington quarter that could affect its value, and that's the condition of the coin. As with any rare coin, the better the condition, the higher the value. If you have a 1982 Washington quarter that's in excellent condition, with sharp details, no major scratches, and a clean surface, you could be sitting on a valuable asset. Even without a minting error, a coin in mint or near mint condition can fetch a pretty penny, especially if it has a significant grade from a professional grading service. Now, let's talk about some real-world examples of how valuable these coins can be. Believe it or not, a 1982 Washington quarter with a rare error recently sold for an astounding $68,000. That's right, a quarter worth $68,000. This specific coin had a double die error, which made it incredibly sought after by collectors. And when you consider how rare it is to find such an error, it's no surprise that this coin sold for such an impressive amount. You might be thinking, how could a simple quarter be worth so much money? The answer lies in the rarity of the error, the condition of the coin, and the demand among collectors. Rare minting errors are a huge draw for collectors who are always on the lookout for unique coins to add to their collections. The more unusual and rare the error, the higher the value of the coin. If you've got a 1982 Washington quarter in your collection, don't just pass it off as regular change. Take a moment to examine it closely. Look for any signs of doubling or off-center strikes. Inspect the date, the word Liberty, and the overall design. If anything looks unusual, it might be worth getting the coin professionally graded by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. A professional grade can help determine the value of your coin and, in some cases, it could be the difference between a few bucks and a life-changing amount of money. Coin collecting is one of those hobbies where a simple find can turn into a big payoff. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, it's always exciting to discover something rare and valuable in your collection. And the 1982 Washington quarter is one of those coins that could potentially be a hidden treasure. So, if you have one of these quarters or happen to find one in your pocket change, take a moment to inspect it. You might be looking at a piece of history that's worth $68,000. Today's video is definitely for you. We're diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins in modern American currency, the 1990 Washington quarter. While you might think this coin is just another piece of change, stick around because you're about to discover how this particular quarter could actually make you a fortune. When it comes to coin collecting, the 1990 Washington quarter isn't a year that immediately comes to mind when people think about valuable coins. After all, it's only a few decades old, and it's part of the modern quarter series. But just like with any other coin, the value of a quarter doesn't lie solely in its date of issue. In fact, the 1990 Washington quarter has some fascinating characteristics that make it worth far more than just 25 cents, especially when it has certain rare features or minting errors. First, let's talk about the history behind this coin. The 1990 Washington quarter was part of the regular circulation, with the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse and an eagle perched on the reverse. At first glance, it looks like any other quarter you'd find in your pocket, right? But the magic comes when we look a little deeper into the world of coin collecting, where rare minting errors and unique characteristics can dramatically increase a coin's value. One of the main things that collectors look for in the 1990 Washington quarter is the presence of minting errors. Minting errors occur when the coin is struck incorrectly during the production process. These errors can create extremely valuable variations, and finding one is like finding a treasure in the middle of what seems like ordinary change. One of the most sought-after errors in the 1990 Washington quarter series is the double die error. This happens when the coin is struck multiple times, causing the design to appear doubled or blurry in certain parts of the coin. The most noticeable areas to look for doubling are in the date, the word liberty, and the phrase, "In God we trust." If you examine the coin carefully and spot any signs of doubling, you could be holding onto a rare and valuable piece. Another minting error that can make the 1990 Washington quarter more valuable is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned when it's struck by the minting press. As a result, part of the design may be cut off or shifted, making the coin look misaligned. These off-center errors are extremely rare, and collectors find them incredibly interesting because of their unique appearance. If you've ever come across a quarter where the design isn't perfectly centered, then you might just have a valuable error coin on your hands, but the errors aren't the only thing that can make the 1990 Washington quarter stand out. The condition of the coin is also a major factor in determining its value. As with any coin, the better the condition, the higher the value. A quarter that is well preserved, with minimal wear and tear, is more likely to attract the attention of collectors who are willing to pay a premium for a high-quality specimen. If your 1990 Washington quarter is in mint or near mint condition, it could be worth significantly more than a regular, worn coin. Now, you're probably wondering, how much is this coin actually worth if it has one of these errors or is in exceptional condition? Well, to give you a real-world example, there's a particularly rare 1990 Washington quarter with a double die error that sold for an eye-popping $66,000. That's right, $66,000 for a quarter that's only a few decades old. This goes to show that even relatively modern coins can carry incredible value if they have the right combination of rarity and condition. So, how do you know if your 1990 Washington quarter is worth a fortune? The first step is to examine the coin carefully. Look closely at the date, the lettering, and the images on both sides. If you notice any doubling or shifting in the design, you may have found a rare error. If the coin is in excellent condition, then it could also be worth more than a typical quarter. If you think you've discovered something special, it's a good idea to have the coin professionally graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. These grading services will evaluate the coin's authenticity and assign a grade that can significantly impact its value. Coin collecting is all about finding those hidden treasures, and with the 1990 Washington quarter, you might just have a gem on your hands. Whether it's a double die error, an off-center strike, or simply a coin in amazing condition, the value of the 1990 Washington quarter can be far beyond its face value. To wrap things up, if you happen to find a 1990 Washington quarter with a minting error, or if your coin is in fantastic condition, don't just pass it off as pocket change. It could be worth a small fortune. In fact, some of these quarters have sold for an incredible $66,000. Today's video, we're taking a deep dive into a 1971 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that may be sitting in your collection right now and could be worth much more than you think. At first glance, the 1971 Washington quarter may seem like just another everyday coin, but as you'll soon discover, it holds some secrets that could lead to a significant payout. Most of us have seen the Washington quarter, with George Washington's iconic profile on the obverse and the American eagle on the reverse, but did you know that certain versions of the 1971 quarter can be worth tens of thousands of dollars? Let's find out how. The Washington quarter series was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Since then, it has been a staple in American coinage, and it continues to hold a special place in both numismatic history and modern currency. The 1971 Washington quarter was part of the clad coinage series, which replaced the earlier silver quarters and was made from a copper-nickel clad composition. But here's where it gets interesting. The value of the 1971 Washington quarter isn't necessarily tied to its basic design or the fact that it's part of the regular issue. In fact, this coin can be incredibly valuable because of a number of factors, including minting errors, special variations, and rarity. There's more to this coin than meets the eye, and we're about to uncover how these factors can lead to incredible profits for collectors. One of the most crucial aspects that can make a 1971 Washington quarter stand out is the presence of minting errors. Minting errors are relatively common in coins produced by the U.S. Mint, but they can result in significant value for those lucky enough to find them. For the 1971 Washington quarter, some of the most sought-after errors include double die and off-center strikes. A double die error occurs when the coin is struck multiple times by the dies, resulting in a doubled image on the coin. This typically happens when the coin is struck twice, either at the wrong angle or with slight misalignment. For the 1971 Washington quarter, a double die error could appear in the date or even in the word Liberty. The doubling effect gives the coin a unique appearance that sets it apart from the rest of the circulation coins, and it is highly prized by collectors. If you're lucky enough to come across a 1971 Washington quarter with a double die error, you could be sitting on a real gem. These coins are hard to come by, and they are typically valued much higher than a standard, unblemished quarter. Collectors and investors alike are constantly on the lookout for coins with this type of error because they are so rare, and their value increases significantly over time. Another minting error to look out for is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not perfectly aligned during the minting process, resulting in part of the coin's design being missing or misaligned. If you find a 1971 Washington quarter where the design appears shifted or cut off, don't just brush it off. These types of errors can be extremely valuable and are sought after by collectors who love misstrikes and other unusual anomalies in coins. But it's not just errors that can make a 1971 Washington quarter valuable. The condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining its worth. As with any coin, the better the condition, the higher the value. A well-preserved 1971 Washington quarter that's free from major scratches, dents, and wear can fetch a premium. Coins that are in mint state, meaning they have no visible signs of wear and retain their original luster, are always more valuable than coins that have been circulating for years and show signs of heavy use. What's the real-world value of a 1971 Washington quarter? Well, a standard 1971 Washington quarter is worth just 25 cents in typical circulation, but when you factor in the rarity of minting errors and the condition of the coin, it can be worth far more. In fact, a 1971 Washington quarter with a rare minting error and excellent condition has been known to sell for $74,000. Yes, that's right, $74,000 for a quarter. This shows just how much of an impact a small, seemingly insignificant coin can have when it comes to rarity and collector demand. You might be asking yourself, how do I know if my 1971 Washington quarter is worth this kind of money? The first step is to examine the coin carefully. Look closely for any signs of doubling in the date or liberty, or check for any off-center misalignments. If the coin looks unusually well preserved, it's worth getting it professionally graded by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. A professional grade can help determine whether your coin is worth a small fortune or if it's just a regular quarter. So, what does all this mean for you? If you come across a 1971 Washington quarter, don't dismiss it as just another coin. Take a good look at it. If it has a minting error, unique characteristics, or is in great condition, you could be holding on to a highly valuable treasure. Imagine finding a quarter in your pocket change that's worth $74,000. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more exciting content on rare coins and valuable collectibles. Have you ever found a rare coin that turned out to be worth a lot more than you expected? Share your stories with us in the comments below, we'd love to hear from you. Today's video is definitely one you won't want to miss. Today, we're diving into the 1983 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that might be sitting right in your pocket right now, waiting to surprise you with its hidden value. At first glance, the 1983 Washington quarter might seem like just another run-of-the-mill coin. It's got the classic portrait of George Washington on the front, and the familiar eagle on the back. Nothing too extraordinary, right? But as you'll soon find out, this quarter could be worth much more than its face value, especially if you know what to look for. The Washington quarter series has a long and rich history, with the coin first being introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Since then, it has been a staple in American coinage, but what makes the 1983 Washington quarter stand out from all the rest? Let's start with the basics. The 1983 Washington quarter was part of the regular issue, and it was made from a copper-nickel-clad composition. It's the kind of coin that most of us have casually tossed around or spent over the years without giving it a second thought. After all, it's just a quarter, right? But in the world of coin collecting, there's much more to a coin's value than just its face value. Whether you've inherited a collection or found one lying around, your 1983 Washington quarter could have a hidden treasure inside if you look a little closer. The value of a coin, especially a modern one like the 1983 Washington quarter, depends on several factors. While it might not be made of precious metals like gold or silver, there are certain characteristics that can significantly boost its value. Among the most important of these is the condition of the coin, followed by any minting errors it may have. And the 1983 Washington quarter has a few things that make it particularly interesting to collectors. Now, one of the key things to look for in the 1983 Washington quarter is minting errors. Minting errors are what really make certain coins stand out and increase their value. These errors happen during the production process when the coin is struck incorrectly, and they can create rare, unique variations of otherwise ordinary coins. For example, a common error that collectors seek in 1983 Washington quarters is the double die error. This error occurs when the coin is struck more than once, resulting in a doubled image on the coin's design. For the 1983 Washington quarter, you might notice the date or the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appear doubled or blurred. This type of double die error is highly prized by collectors because it creates a unique appearance that cannot be replicated. If you happen to find a 1983 Washington quarter with a double die error, then you've got something special on your hands. Another potential minting error to look out for is an off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not aligned properly during the minting process, causing part of the design to be cut off or misaligned. An off-center strike can give the coin a distinctive appearance, with parts of George Washington's profile or the eagle missing or shifted to one side. Like the double die error, this type of error is also incredibly rare, and coins with off-center strikes are highly collectible, but it's not just about errors. The overall condition of the coin plays a significant role in determining its value. Coins that are in excellent condition, with minimal wear and tear, are always more valuable than those that have been heavily circulated and show signs of damage. A coin that looks like it just came out of the mint and has been well preserved over the years will always be in demand among collectors. If your 1983 Washington quarter is in mint condition, it could be worth far more than its face value. You might be wondering, how much could a 1983 Washington quarter actually be worth? While a regular quarter from 1983 is worth just 25 cents, a rare or error coin can fetch an incredible price. Coins with minting errors, especially in pristine condition, can go for much more than you'd expect. In fact, a 1983 Washington quarter with a double die error or an off-center strike has been known to sell for $38,500. Yes, you heard that right, $38,500 for a single quarter. This is proof that even relatively modern coins can hold immense value, especially if they have rare minting errors or are in exceptional condition. So, if you're ever out and about and you spot a 1983 Washington quarter, take a closer look before you spend it. You might just be holding onto a valuable treasure. So, how do you tell if your 1983 Washington quarter is worth a small fortune? The first step is to inspect the coin carefully. Check the date, the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" for any signs of doubling. Look for any misalignment or off-center strikes. If you notice any of these signs, you could be in luck. If the coin looks well preserved with minimal wear, then it could also be worth a lot more than you might think. If you do find a rare or valuable 1983 Washington quarter, it's a good idea to have it professionally graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. These grading services will assess the condition of the coin and give it a grade that can affect its market value. A higher grade typically means a higher price. In conclusion, the 1983 Washington quarter is much more than just a 25-cent piece. If you find one with a minting error or in pristine condition, you could be looking at a coin worth $38,500. Who knew that a simple quarter could hold so much value? If you're a coin collector or someone who loves discovering hidden treasures, be sure to keep an eye out for this potentially valuable coin. Today's video is going to be incredibly exciting. We're diving into the world of the 1991 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that you might just have sitting around in your collection or even in your pocket change. But did you know that this seemingly simple quarter could be worth much more than its face value? The Washington quarter, introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, has been a staple in American coinage ever since. But just because a coin has a familiar design, doesn't mean it's not special. The 1991 Washington quarter is one of those coins that, at first glance, seems like nothing out of the ordinary. It features the classic image of George Washington on the front, and on the back, the eagle, a timeless symbol of American strength and freedom. Yet, despite its common appearance, the 1991 Washington quarter can actually hold significant value, especially if you know what to look for. While it's true that the majority of the 1991 Washington quarters you come across will be worth just 25 cents, certain versions of this coin can be worth a lot more. Just like other coins from the Washington quarter series, the value of the 1991 quarter is influenced by a number of factors, such as minting errors, rarity, and condition. One of the most important things to know about collecting coins like the 1991 Washington quarter is that minting errors can make a world of difference in a coin's value. These errors occur during the production process and often result in some unique and rare features on the coin. Minting errors can be subtle but highly impactful, so if you've ever wondered why certain coins seem to be priced far beyond their face value, minting errors are usually the reason behind it. For the 1991 Washington quarter, there are a few types of minting errors that could dramatically increase its worth. One of the most valuable errors you could find is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once, resulting in doubled features on the design. A double die error can appear anywhere on the coin, but common spots include the date or the word "Liberty." If you notice a doubled or blurred appearance on any part of the coin's design, you could be looking at a highly valuable error coin. Collectors are constantly on the lookout for double die coins, and they are often willing to pay a premium to add these unique pieces to their collections. Another important minting error to look for is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not aligned correctly during the minting process, causing part of the design to be misaligned or even cut off. If you have a 1991 Washington quarter where the design looks like it's shifted or incomplete, don't just dismiss it as a regular quarter, it could be worth a lot more. Off-center strikes are quite rare, and they're particularly sought after by collectors who specialize in misaligned strikes and error coins. If you find a 1991 quarter with this error, it could make you a substantial profit. Now, let's not forget about condition. The state of the coin plays a huge role in determining its value. A well-preserved coin, especially one that's been kept in mint condition, meaning it looks as if it just came out of the mint, will naturally be worth far more than a coin that's been heavily circulated. Coins that are pristine, with no scratches, marks, or signs of wear, are always more desirable to collectors. For example, a 1991 Washington quarter that's been kept in excellent condition could be worth thousands of dollars, especially if it has any unique features or errors. So, what's the bottom line? How much could a 1991 Washington quarter be worth? Well, it's all about finding that rare coin that has the right combination of features. A standard 1991 Washington quarter will typically be worth just 25 cents, but when you factor in rare minting errors, like the double die error or off-center strikes, and combine that with a high-quality condition, the value can skyrocket. In fact, a 1991 Washington quarter in excellent condition with a minting error has been known to sell for a staggering $35,800. Yes, you heard that right, $35,800 for a single quarter. So, if you find a 1991 Washington quarter that has any signs of being different from the rest, whether it's a double die or misaligned design, it could be worth much more than you ever expected. Now, how do you identify a coin like this? The first step is to inspect the coin closely. Look at the date, the word Liberty, and the eagle on the back for any signs of doubling. Then, check the alignment of the design. If it seems off-center or misaligned, that could be another sign of an error. If everything looks perfect, but the coin is in exceptional mint condition, it might still be worth a pretty penny. To be absolutely sure about the value of your 1991 Washington quarter, consider having it professionally graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. A certified grade can help you understand exactly how much your coin is worth and how much collectors might be willing to pay for it. So, the next time you're checking your coin collection or going through your change, take a moment to look closely at any 1991 Washington quarters you come across. If it has any of the minting errors we've discussed or is in outstanding condition, you could be holding on to a coin worth tens of thousands of dollars. If you found today's video interesting or helpful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more great content on rare coins and valuable collectibles. Do you have any rare coins in your collection that you think might be worth a fortune? Share your stories in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your coin discoveries. Until next time, happy collecting, and don't forget to keep your eyes peeled for those hidden treasures. You never know, your next coin might just be a valuable find.